So now, in response to this, the ADC spokesperson, Bolaji Abdullahi, was interviewed by journalists. So the Cable reported, the Cable is an online digital newspaper, where it says, goes with the headline, ADC to Obi, make up your mind on joining us. Zoning shouldn't be precondition. Written by Jerry Wright Uku, December 7th, which is today, 7:41 a.m. So the report says the African Democratic Congress ADC has asked Peter Obi, 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, to quickly decide on whether he wants to join the party. He said that they consider the party, that's ADC, consider Obi as a key political figure, in the coalition, but they will not compel him to become a member, So they now made reference to what the article made reference to what Obi has said in the interview, So Bolaji Abdullahi told Punch. So the interview was conducted by Punch, but this is a report from the Cable. So Bolaji Abdullahi, ADC spokesperson, told Punch that the party is not yet at the stage to adopt zoning, and that his priority for now is to position itself as a credible alternative. So Bolaji Abdullahi said, we are not talking about zoning or not zoning now. Nigerians are still waiting for us to tell them what we will do differently. So zoning or no zoning is not on the table now. If that is the condition for Obi to join us, maybe he should wait till that time. Then he went on to say, I understand what Peter has been saying, but I will encourage him to make up his mind if he wants to be part of the coalition or not. Because the most important thing for us is how we can convince Nigerians that we represent the credible alternative. And this is without prejudice to where the candidates will come from. So then he now went on to say, for us, we want Peter Obi to join us in building a political party that can reset Nigerian politics and provide a credible alternative to Nigerians. When we get to that point of deciding what he considers to be his priority, then we will take that decision. But if that is the condition on which he's going to continue to be part of the coalition or make up his mind about the coalition, he should probably wait until we get to that point and make that decision. But we will encourage him to make up his mind to join the party now. For us, we have other priorities which include developing our party. We are making progress in that regard. Then he was asked that they said, I didn't see that part in the interview, but they said that Obi said that the coalition is unstable. So in response, Bolaji Abdullahi said, it's unfortunate that that is Obi, used a word like unstable, because instability is not contingent on whether we are able to make certain decisions on zoning at this point or not. We are stable. Within 5 months, we have offices in 27 or 28 states as of last count, without a single political office holder. That's a major achievement. We would like to see Peter Obi go to Anambra and support efforts to build the party like other leaders have done in their respective states. The party will continue to encourage him. We want him to be part of our journey. We want him to be part of building the party. So we've seen now that Peter Obi is still reluctant on joining the coalition because, according to Peter Obi, certain agreements have not been signed, have not been reached as to rotation of offices. Bolaji Abdullahi of ADC is saying that they're not talking about zoning or rotation now. What they are talking about for now is how to build the party. That if Obi wants to wait until that time that they are decided that you can decide to wait. But for now, ADC hasn't gotten to that point, and that the ADC has made progress. They've opened offices in 27 or 28 states, and he urged Peter Obi to open an office in Anambra State, just like others have done. So it's clear that Obi is still holding his cards to his chest, and ADC is urging him, make up your mind now, because time is really actually running out. So it makes sense. ADC needs to know who and who are with us, because the coalition has been, uh, how do they call it now? With strange bedfellows. Coalition of strange bedfellows. Because in 2023, Obi was in Labour Party, Atiku was in PDP, Malam Nasir El-Rufai was still in APC, you know. Amechi was in APC, but he was, was not really fully in support of Tinubu like that. So now these strange bedfellows are now coming together to form a coalition. So we see how that plays out. I think Obi should still hold his cards. I agree with Obi. He should still hold his cards. Let him get certain guarantees before he joins the ADC. And if he can't get those guarantees, then there's no need for him joining the ADC. Of course, the Labour Party where he is fractured. There are different. There is the Abure faction. There's the Nenadi Usman faction. Abure faction held a neck that was attended by Dati Baba Ahmed, and INEC observed it. Nenadi Usman faction, they sent letters to INEC to say, we are the properly constituted National Working Committee of Labour Party and all that. So there's division in Labour Party. So that's there. For PDP, there's still division in the PDP. It's not really clear yet, but it appears that the Turaki faction is taking a lead in that arena. So Obi could make the decision to stay in Labour Party or move to PDP, which is his former party, if ADC is no longer in the cards, considering the powerful figures that are there. So that is that is one thing. Then, like I mentioned in another video, if Peter Obi sees it, if he can't get candidacy in any of these platforms, there's no point. Some have floated the idea that he should be running mate to Atiku. I don't agree, because Obi is qualified to be a presidential candidate, so he shouldn't be running mate. Then he was running mate to Atiku in 2019, where they ran in the PDP against Buhari in 2019. And at that time, the PDP was fairly united, and they had a lot of people in the PDP then. And yet they lost to Buhari in 2019. And then we all know what happened in 2023. So, one, the fact if Obi joins, let's say becomes running mate to Atiku, we've seen that scenario play out before. They can still lose with that scenario of Obi being running mate to Atiku. That's one. Can still lose because that scenario has played out before and it didn't work. Then two, since that 2019, Obi has grown more popular, and 2023 elections, using a third party, a third force, Labour Party, relatively smaller, party, they got 6 million votes, and it's got more popular. It's more popular with the youths, obedient movement, and all of that. So he has seen gain more popularity since that 2019. Another thing, as a vice president, let's say he's a running mate to somebody, be it Atiku or another person, as a vice president don't have power. They don't have power. When Jonathan was vice president to Umaru Yar'Adua, Jonathan didn't have power until Umaru Yar'Adua became sick and Jonathan became acting president and later became uh, full president when Yar'Adua died. But as vice president, Jonathan did not have power. And the same thing played out when Buhari came into power. Osinbajo did not have any power. The only time that Osinbajo showed some muscle was when Buhari was sick and they reluctantly gave Osinbajo as acting president. And we saw the good actions, decisive actions that was taken by Osinbajo when he was acting president. But the moment Buhari came back and they had the re-election, Osinbajo was relegated back to the background. It even became worse during Buhari's second term. Osinbajo's aides, many of his aides were sacked. The budget of the vice president was now put under the chief of staff of the president. So the vice president has to report to the chief of staff of the president before he could get anything done. So that's how Osinbajo was relegated to the background. That's why when he tried to run for president, it didn't go anywhere because he didn't have any power and he didn't really exert his power. At the point, Osinbajo threatened to even resign before the 2019 election. To tell you the level of frustration he faced, and then when he tried to run, he didn't really have any force. He didn't really have any base. And so he lost out in the primaries to Tinubu. So now we have Shettima, that is vice president to Tinubu. When this Buhari's administration started, Shettima was really, a force. Then after a while, they tried to relegate Shettima the same way other vice presidents have been relegated. They tried to relegate him. It's when, from my own observation, is when the late former President Buhari died and Shettima played a key role. He was the one that when Buhari was very sick in London, President Tinubu sent Shettima to go and visit Buhari when Buhari was still alive, but he was sick in the hospital, and asked Shettima to provide all the things that Buhari would need. And then when Buhari died, Shettima was also sent to London to bring Buhari's body back to Nigeria. And following all the role that Shettima played during that period, when they now did a meeting to honor Buhari, we saw how the president praised Shettima for the role he played. So, and after that Buhari's unfortunate demise and the burial and everything, Shettima now started to regain some regain some influence. We saw how there was a point where Shettima, when Ganduje was still APC chairman, and they went to the Northeast Consultative Forum, preparation for 2027, they mentioned Tinubu's name, they didn't mention Shettima, and that led to a fracas, a free-for-all fight at the venue, and then we saw Ganduje has left, Shettima has, is now, as is, his profile is raised up again and all of that. But the key thing is that it is what the president allows the vice president to do. If the president doesn't want the vice president to do anything, the vice president will just be there, will just be a figurehead. So the things that Peter Obi wants to do, he can't do it if he's a vice president. He can't. What the president team used to think, because the president comes from one region, the vice president comes from another region. The president's team and people from his region feel it is our turn. Emilokun, is our turn. And when you say something is your turn, It means that it's the turn of my region, it's the turn of my people. And so that kind of mentality doesn't give place for a vice president who is from another region to pursue his own agenda and stuff like that. So I think this is started from Obasanjo time. When Obasanjo was president, he gave the vice president a lot of powers. Atiku was vice president to Obasanjo. Atiku had a lot of powers then, and then Atiku now abused that power, misused that power, and now try to make Obasanjo one-term president. There was efforts to impeach Obasanjo. There was efforts to make sure Obasanjo doesn't run again. When Obasanjo came in 1999, it was to go for re-election in 2003. There were serious efforts to prevent Obasanjo from running for a second term, even though the constitution permits him to do that. And the ringleader of that was Atiku, as reported. You understand? Then when Obasanjo now won re-election and now came back as president, he now said, oh, it seems this my vice president has too much power. He now tried to restrict the Atiku. And he now tried to make efforts so that Atiku will not succeed him. Even at the point when Atiku saw that he may not be able to get the ticket in PDP, Atiku now defected to AC, which is the party of Tinubu in Southwest, while remaining as president. Then Obasanjo now said, oh, he has defected, that the president and the vice presidents have to be of the same party. Then Obasanjo now declared Atiku's seat vacant. The Atiku had to go to courts, and the court now interpreted that there are different ways to remove the vice president. It doesn't include, there are different conditions to be met before a vice president is removed. And it does not include the president, it does not include the vice president leaving one party to the other. That's how Atiku was restored back as vice president. And of course, he contested 2007, but Obasanjo threw his weight for Umaru Yar'Adua and all that. But since then, we've had a situation whereby vice presidents, are given limited powers because one, there's the fear that the vice president may be too powerful and try to take charge of things. There's that fear. Then there's this issue of region. Like now, the president is from Southwest, the vice president is from Northeast. You understand? The Southwest feel Emiloko, it's my turn, it's our turn. So they will not, if it's our turn, that our turn doesn't include somebody from the Northeast running things. So those are some of the issues. Obi will not be given any powers, giving much power if he's the vice president. That's the fact, that's the reality. He will only be, since 1999, he will now be the first vice president from the Southeast. Southeast have, since 1999, Southeast have not produced president or vice president. So in terms of theory, on paper, it will not be, at least Southeast have vice president. But it won't mean much if his powers are limited. And if the things he talks about moving Nigeria from consumption to production and fighting corruption and all that, it will not be possible if the president's team wants another agenda. So I concur with him, with Atiku, with Peter Obi, still holding his cards, still waiting. He has spent a lot of money, as I've said before in another video. In 2023, he spent a lot of money and has been spending a lot of money in philanthropic ventures and humanitarian ventures and all of that. If it seems that he won't have a chance of being a presidential candidate, he should just leave it. There's no need of raising people's hopes up or wasting money in another redo or remise of 2023 election that will be bound to fail again. In 2015, when the incumbent president was defeated, when Jonathan was defeated, the opposition parties, they came together. So you have opposition parties like the AC from the southwest, the CPC from the north, Buhari's side, you have the new PDP, you have other groups came together in 2015. So it was that coalition then they now came together, formed APC, and that is how they were able to form a united force against Jonathan and defeated Jonathan. So now opposition cannot stand a chance in the coming 2027 if they are not united. If they are not able to come together and say let's unite and form a united front, it's not going to happen. So if PDP is having a candidate, Labour Party is having a candidate, ADC having their candidate, then you have APC. If you have APC is the ruling party, of course, but if all the opposition parties have their own candidates and they want to do a remix of 2023, that's a waste of money and waste of resources. Rather just coronate the president for another term because it's going to be a waste. You understand? The only chance the opposition has is if they come together, and coming together will be a problem because we have people with big egos who want to be president and who sees 2027 as probably the last chance they have to be president. So all of that is playing out. We'll see what Obi decides to do going forward.